So the first thing I'm going to do before I start mixing my my dough up, I'm just going to grease a couple of the bowls that I have set out for the dough to proof in. Just use a little bit of olive oil and make sure I get all the sides. It just makes getting it out a lot easier. Tomorrow, in about 12 hours, when we knead in all of our spices and flavorings, which I haven't even decided what I want to do yet. But the first time I did it, I didn't run any olive oil on the inside of my bowls, and the dough just stuck like crazy. I keep saying batter because I'm used to working with cake, but make sure you do that. It's gonna be a lot easier if you do. All right, so the first thing to get the dough ready, you're gonna use 1 cup of your sourdough starter, which has been fed. You can see how bubbly that is. And 1 cup of warm water. I'm gonna add that to our bowl. I need to get a scale. I've got one at the bakery, but I keep forgetting to bring it home over the weekend. It's funny when I read the blogs and stuff about bread. They say a cup of flour is not a cup of flour, you need to weigh it.
Right.
Alright, give that a little stir. And then we're going to add 3 cups of, in this case I'm going to do all-purpose flour because I left my strong flour at the bakery. And tomorrow I'll do another batch with strong flour. So the starter that we're using right now, this is Cricken. Cricken is kind of 2.0 from, is it Martin? Is that what we name it?
Yes.
Martin. And we are actually trying to start a new sourdough right now, which we're trying to capture at the bakery. Elise and I got that going today. We'll see if we capture anything or if what we capture is any good. And I don't end up with a giant moldy mess like I did last time. But so you got your 3 cups of flour, 1 cup of warm water, filtered, by the way. Don't use any water that has any kind of chemicals in it, or chlorine or fluoride or anything like that. They still add fluoride to the water? Or is that like an old thing we used to hear about when we were kids? I guess they do. I had to Google that. So I give that a good stir, and then I'm gonna, from here, I'm just gonna knead it for about 8 or 10 minutes on the counter. Just gonna get that as incorporated as I can with my little spatula. And then we will knead that for about 8 or 10 minutes or so. So the instructions I read on this recipe were to knead the dough for about 8 to 10 minutes. Obviously, I'm not gonna record myself breaking a sweat kneading this little ball of dough for 8 or 10 minutes, but it's very similar to kneading fondant. When my brother and I used to have to sometimes make, 6, 7, 8 batches of fondant a week for the wedding cakes at Shockley Sweet Shop. Only with fondant, it's way stickier than bread dough. And if that stuff touches your hands, that marshmallow, you are done. It is so hard to get back off of there and start over. So with sourdough, I'm really curious. I haven't learned enough yet with sourdough. If you can like over knead it, or are you trying to create the gluten strands? Are you trying to, I've read all about the what do you call it, the window pane test, or the translucency test and all that. But I don't know if that applies to sourdough. So really what I do is just, I get enough flour on my surface to where I'm not gonna be sticking all over the place. The whole recipe that I'm following is only 4 cups of flour total. And I'm adding the flour that I use on the surface as part of that, or I'm trying to. It's pretty loose right now. I'm not following exact measurements, obviously, but I'm trying to incorporate some of that because I don't want too much in there, but it'll start to get sticky in a second. But I'm curious, like, do you or can you over knead your dough or under knead it? And what exactly is happening here chemically? That stuff always kind of fascinates me. But one thing I did learn just watching videos, and Mary and I have been addicted to the Great British Bake Off or baking show. And I saw them, they all like kind of slam the dough down no matter what kind of bread they're working on. So I started trying to do that a little bit. I don't know what it does. It does relieve some frustrations. You do get it work out, but anyway, so I'm gonna do this for another 7 or 8 minutes or so. And then it's gonna go right into my already greased bowl for 12 hours to proof. And then tomorrow, probably tomorrow morning, it's about 11 o'clock now, I think Mary and I are gonna fold coconut into this one. And then we're gonna do an egg wash and pineapple. So an egg yolk and pineapple wash on top of it with some powdered ginger. Should be pretty good. So I just realized I've already made a mistake. The dough felt so much less sticky than it has in the last, I don't know, dozen loaves I've done now. And I realized I was supposed to use 1.5 cups of warm water, and I only used one cup of warm water and 1 cup of starter. So I can't go back now and add water to it, obviously. So I don't know what this is gonna do. This may be a really dry bread. It may be fine. Obviously it's not soaking up as much flour, so maybe that'll be the difference. I honestly don't know. Maybe my bread won't proof at all. But we'll find out, I guess. All right, so we did about 10 minutes worth of kneading. I will admit it's much easier when you're not having to, it's not as sticky, obviously, because I didn't add as much water by accident. So I'm just gonna set this in the bowl that's already been greased. That's where we are, and we'll see what kind of proof we get in 12 hours without with the missing 1/2 cup of water. That bums me out, but who knows, maybe we'll discover something, like really dry bread. So I have my dough wrapped, and I like to label them. Generally I do more than one a night, but so Cricken is my starter that I'm using. Today's date, APF, just all-purpose flour. And I also made a little note on there that it is minus 1/2 cup of water. But that's gonna sit for about 12 hours, so tomorrow morning around 11, I guess, 11:30. We will see how that proofed up, and then we're gonna add our coconut, a little bit more flour, some salt. I like to use honey instead of sugar, and give it another 12-hour proof after that. So we'll see what happens. So the proof went well last night, despite not having all of my water in the recipe, missing 1/2 cup. But this is after a 12-hour proof. So in a minute I'm going to fold in some salt, some honey,
And I think we're going to do some coconut and some a little bit more flour and let it sit for another proof. We'll see what happens.
All right, I'm gonna try to film this bit, but before we get going, I'm gonna just talk about the ingredients I'm using. I've been using these different flavored sea salts that my friends George and Betsy gave me. This time we're just gonna use the pink sea salt, the Himalayan. We're gonna use a little bit of honey, and the honey I've been using is the Raps Flower Blossom Creamed Honey. It's super tasty, and really the only reason I started using it was because I didn't have any sugar in the house. And you need about anywhere from a tablespoon to 2 tablespoons of sugar. And this time, Mary has asked that I do coconut and pineapple. So I have about 1.5 cups of pineapple chunks and dried coconut here. That's why I'm using a little less honey. Normally I use about 2.5 tablespoons of honey, but that coconut, the coconut is unsweetened, but the pineapple is nice and sweet. So I cut back on some of the honey. So let's see if we can do all this in frame. And for this recipe, we're using the just the King Arthur flour all-purpose, because I left my strong flour at the bakery, and this is the coconut I'm using. Bless you.
Thank you.
So let's see if we can knock this out real quick. Alrighty. So the flour that I put down, I used about 3 cups of flour in the initial dough, and I measured out about another cup of flour here that I'm going to try to work in a total of 4 cups of flour. Even though I'm a little short on water in this recipe, I think I'm going to make up for it with my wet ingredients like the pineapple and all that good stuff. So the first thing I'm going to do is just get all that in here. My pineapple, a little bit of pineapple juice. I strained most of that pineapple out. I don't have fresh pineapple, so this is just canned pineapple. And then I'm gonna use my honey and my salt. So there's my salt, which I already had measured out. And then we will get the honey. And again, I scaled back a little bit on the honey just because using the sweetened coconut, I don't think I'm gonna need as much sugar. There's that. Get that out of the way. And then I'm just gonna give it a little bit of stir in the bowl just to get it somewhat a little tiny bit mixed up before I dump it onto my table, my workspace. Not a ton. Again, because I greased my bowl last night, it's gonna be a little easier to mix it around in the bowl. I'm gonna do a ton right here. I'm gonna do most of my work on the table, but I've had several people ask me, for the recipe and what I've been doing, and I basically just had a really simple recipe that didn't call for yeast or anything like that, and I've just been kind of adapting it since then. And for the most part, it's usually worked out pretty well. I haven't really had any major flops, but who knows, maybe this will be one of them. It's looking really wet right now and sticky, so that honey and that pineapple juice. There wasn't a ton of pineapple juice. I did strain it, but yeah, now I'm thinking, I wonder if I should have used like dried fruit. But some of the best recipes that we find at the bakery are accidents, like happy accidents, or that we had only a certain amount of ingredients, or we only had a certain type of ingredient to work with, so we just kind of give it a shot and see what happens. And we have found that we've gotten some pretty cool results out of it. Can't replicate it ever, because it's what did we use and how much did we use of it. But actually this feels pretty good. Not too bad. I think adding the pineapple wet like that and having not measured my water correctly at the beginning is going to help a little bit. I don't want to knead it too much. I'm not being too violent with it, because again, I'm just crushing all the water out of that pineapple. so I don't want to make my dough too moist. If any of you are out there watching this and you do bread all the time, I guarantee you I'm screwing a ton of stuff up, but this is my 2019 goal. See if I can figure out sourdough and some other breads. At least get a basic knowledge of it. I'm trying to make at least 2 to 4 loaves every Saturday. That's why the videos go up so late sometimes, is because I don't even start getting a dough ready to proof until midnight on Saturdays. But it's because we're at the bakery all day long and we don't get out of there till about 7:30, 8 sometimes on Saturdays, and then come home, eat dinner, play some board games with our friends or whatnot, and then try to get a dough ready for Sunday. So I'm gonna stop recording so you don't have to listen to me and watch me knead this dough for the next, I got another 6 minutes or so. And then we'll come back. All right, so I had to use a little bit more flour because again, the pineapple's pretty moist. And Mary just told me that I said I was using sweetened coconut at one point. I'm not, I'm using unsweetened organic because of the pineapple so sweet. And I think actually that's all we have in the house at the moment is unsweetened coconut, but I think we're pretty much ready to go. I had to use a little bit more flour than I was anticipating, but I think we're pretty much ready to go. I'm gonna let this proof probably for, well, as long as it needs. I'll do a ripe test on it later tonight, but usually I do about a 10 or 12 hour proof on it for my second proof. I already have my bowl, again, oiled. I use olive oil. You can use avocado oil, it really doesn't matter what you use. I like the olive oil, but there we go. We will see what happens. I don't like the exposed fruit on top, but who cares if that caramelizes in the oven a little bit. Bakers don't burn, we caramelize. So we'll see what happens in another 10 hours or so. So the proof is going really quick. This is only a couple hours and it's already pretty much doubled in size. I'll do a ripe test on it here. I know, right? I'll do a ripe test on it here in another hour or so.
Ooh, I can't wait for you to bake that.
I know, I'm surprised. Wow. So anyway, it's going pretty well.
Yay!